Sometimes I know it does appear that bureaucrats and even elected officials in government have lost their hearing because they clearly aren't listening to the people any longer when they make decisions. Which is why we would recommend that they all see Dr. Christine Pickup, a doctor of audiology, and have their hearing checked. She's located at Mount Harrison Audiology in Rupert. In fact, you can find her online, mountharrisonaudiology.com. Her office at 1218 Ninth Street, and that's unit number 2. Her telephone number 208 312 0957. And of course, this may apply to many people in government too as well. Hearing loss and dementia are linked. Hearing loss becomes a great burden on the brain as you have to expend more time and energy to decipher what others are saying to you. Treating hearing loss reduces the strain and makes hearing more natural. Keep your brain healthy by taking care of your hearing. If you'd like to reach our program today, the telephone number is 736-0300. You can also drop me a line at my email at bill.colley at townsquaremedia.com. That's bill.colley at townsquaremedia.com. And you're up next. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Bill. Ever since the United Nations founding in 1945, and 16 of the key officials, U.S. officials who started that whole thing, were exposed in sworn testimony as secret communists, including Alger Hiss, who was convicted as a spy, and Harry Dexter White, and so forth. But the whole world, you look at the refugee program, Agenda 21, all of these things come down through the United Nations, and they're just people that want, these elitists have always wanted a world government, and we're getting really close to that. And so we still have that chance to get out of the United Nations. H.R. 1205 is on the books, and we really need to take a serious look at getting out, put the heat on our congressmen and senators to really keep the U.S. independent. But the drive has been since 1945 and before is to create a one world government, and everything you see happening out there is basically fits into that agenda.
And this whole refugee migrant crisis falls into that. You've got people like Soros who are saying that we should just simply drop our borders and have a worldwide government. This UN has been funded by this country mainly and nobody else. It does not have our interests at heart. What good does the United Nations, it's very difficult, other than the occasional, and I say occasional, peacekeeping mission, and in many cases, those guys just stand back and are cannon fodder in the middle of a war. What good has it done anyone?
That's absolutely right. You look at the record of the United Nations, it's been very anti-American from day one. All of these tin pot dictators around the world that we've funneled money into, they thumb their nose at us and vote against us in the United Nations voting. And the United Nations has served well for the communist socialist agenda since its inception. And we need to get out and really take a close look at it and get past that H.R. 1205 because that would move the United Nations out of here. It's just basically a nest of spies. And you realize, Bill, that these guys have diplomatic immunity, and they can come in here, bring in whatever they want to. They can take out whatever they want to without having anybody search those pouches and what have you. And, of course, they run up the parking tickets in New York City area, too, I understand.
Yeah, thank you much for the call. I think that the United Nations, if you tomorrow just suddenly said that the United States would no longer fund it, it would collapse because no one else is interested in funding it. It's essentially people who put it together to drain this country's resources. I even Ben Carson, who I'm not sold on as a potential presidential candidate, I heard his interview the other day with Glenn Beck where he was asked about the UN, and he pretty much just said, why do we need it? Get rid of it. They want to go back to Europe and sit around and do their impersonation of the League of Nations, which is what you had beforehand, which was just as ineffectual and didn't have the funding that the current outfit has. Go. But American liberals keep saying, oh, but we need it so we can keep talking and have peace. In this day and age, with the technology we have, you don't need to go sit in a large arena hall somewhere and have those conversations. It's just not necessary anymore. And for the life of me, you've got people who are making, once more, some people, somehow, George Soros among them, making a killing off of all of this. and they want it to continue. We've got a few more minutes to go. I do want to point out Mike Gallagher coming up shortly on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com with Bill Colley this morning. In the meantime, can I tell you about something? It's called Animals and Angels Holiday Bazaar. This is a fundraiser. If you love animals, and we have some people here who are struggling because of the number of abandoned animals and animals that have been brought into shelters. The numbers keep growing, and there's only just so much they can do. Mountain View Barn, which is in Jerome, has this event coming up 10 o'clock this Saturday morning. And it starts at, it starts at 10 o'clock. I guess it's 10 o'clock and runs through, and I'm trying to read this through the holiday decorations on my screen. I think it's 5. Mountain View Barn, and that's at 392 East, 300 South in Jerome. It says, come enjoy a latte or lunch and shop. And every purchase made will help with much-needed medical care for the fur kids in rescue. And it says, shop at their booth and make a difference. So if you're an animal lover, there's an opportunity to reach out and do something for some of the innocents in this community. We've got Gallagher coming up in a moment, brought to you exclusively by the financial advisors at Waddell & Reed in Twin Falls, 736-6563. Ah, yes, all of my Muslim friends, sometimes the Lord works in mysterious ways. 9:54, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. But if you're feeling poorly, you can come over to my place. We'll sit down and have a ham sandwich and talk it over. 31 right now, about 6 minutes away from news from Fox at 10 o'clock. Rush Limbaugh will follow news, of course, and then Sean Hannity after 1 o'clock news today, Glenn Beck after 4 o'clock news. God willing, if the creek don't rise, they'll allow me to come back and do this all over again tomorrow. There is some good news for traditional American faith. Call it a mixed bag before we wrap up the program today. The Christian Post. Christian business shut down over gay marriage is now a church. And the writer, Anugrah Kumar, well, some people are Christians despite their ancestry. The Christian owners of Gertz House Gallery in Grimes, Iowa, had to close down their business completely after they were charged with discrimination for refusing to hold a same-sex wedding at the venue. But now they say they have a reason to be, quote, pretty tickled, unquote. Richard Odgaard and his wife Betty had to close their business, a gift shop and bistro, in August, about 2 years after they told a gay couple from Des Moines their facility couldn't host a same-sex wedding. The Odgaards were subsequently forced to pay $5,000 in a settlement for refusing to host the wedding. It wasn't easy for the Mennonite couple to go through the situation, but they eventually saw it as an opportunity. They sold the building to Harvest Bible Church. And this is what Betty Odgaard had to say to the Des Moines Register. If it can't be a gallery anymore, this is the next best thing. We're pretty tickled. Other news on the front, Christians' persecution still going on. We told you last week about Joe Kennedy, the football coach from Washington State, coaching at a local high school, who has been indefinitely suspended because after the end of each game, he would go out to the 50-yard line and quietly pray. And in fact, in the game just before he was suspended, the other team came over and ended up kneeling and praying beside him, which tells you he had the support not only of his own players, but of other players as well. Speaking to Fox News, he says he will not compromise his beliefs and his commitment to God.
I kind of made an agreement before I started coaching to God that, hey, I'm going to pray and give you the glory and thank you for these guys after every game.
There you have it. So unapologetic that he still will celebrate his faith. If it means no coaching, so be it. You got to pick one or the other. You pick God. Well, so you think that this is partially good news? People are keeping up their chins in the face of the cultural onslaught. In Houston today, Election Day, they're having a vote on the bathroom bill, which means that boys who think they are girls or claim they are girls can now go use the ladies' room. And in Houston, Texas, which used to be a bastion of conservatism, they have a lesbian mayor, and it has become a very much Democrat city because of a lot of the influx of people from, how shall we put it, elsewhere around the world who are looking for a free lunch. Meanwhile, according to the Daily Signal, these groups or businesses are supporting the measure. Number 1, Apple. That would be Apple Computers. Number 2, BASF. Number 3, Dell. That would be a computer company as well. Number 4, Dow Company. Number 5, General Electric. Number 6, Hewlett-Packard, another computer company. And United Airlines. These are all behind this bill because they think that it's a good idea if a guy thinks he's a girl to let the guy go in and use the ladies' room. These companies are joining more than 60 local businesses that have gotten behind the measure, along with more than 60 coalition members. Those include the ACLU, the NAACP, and Planned Parenthood. All of the usual devilish evil suspects. May God have mercy on their souls and on the souls of all of us. Drive safely today. It's going to be a few minutes more before that snow melts off.